Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be talking about cloud computing. And we've got some really cool insights from a presentation by Dr. Yogesh Malhotra,
Uh-huh.
who is a real expert in this area. So I'm really excited to kind of unpack this with you all. You know, when I first heard the term cloud computing, I'll be honest, I kind of thought it was just like a fancy marketing term,
Oh,
like, oh, everything's in the cloud now. It's just.
right.
But it's actually a really profound shift. And Dr. Malhotra does a great job of explaining, uh, how we can think about this whole concept of cloud computing.
Yeah, he really frames it as a paradigm shift, you
Yeah,
know. It's not just about storing your data somewhere else. It's really about changing the way that we think about computing altogether.
exactly. And he uses this really great analogy of computing as a utility,
Oh, yeah.
like electricity or water. We don't have to generate our own electricity anymore. We just plug into the grid. And he's saying that cloud computing is kind of like that.
Yeah, it's available on demand. You only pay for what you use. You can scale it up or down instantly, so it gives you a lot of flexibility.
Right. So you're not stuck with all this expensive hardware
Yeah.
that might become obsolete, in a couple of years.
Right. You don't have to worry about maintaining it,
Okay.
upgrading it. It's all handled for you.
And this idea of agility and resilience, he talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
And I think those are two really important concepts in today's business world.
Absolutely. Yeah, because the world is changing so fast.
Yeah.
And businesses need to be able to adapt quickly to
Yeah.
stay competitive.
So agility is all about kind of like being nimble
Yeah.
and being able to respond quickly to changes.
Right, whether it's a sudden surge in demand, a new competitor entering the market, whatever it might be.
And resilience is kind of like being able to roll with the punches.
Yeah, it's about being able to bounce back from setbacks, like if a server fails or there's a natural disaster. A resilient system can keep running without major disruption.
So how did cloud computing help with both of those things?
Well, for agility, the cloud gives you the tools to scale your resources up or down in an instant. So you can respond to those changes quickly and
Oh,
efficiently.
okay.
And for resilience, cloud providers have multiple data centers spread across the globe, so your systems are less likely to be affected by a single point of failure.
So it's like having a backup system built in.
Right.
That's really cool. Now, building a secure and efficient cloud infrastructure can't be easy
Yeah,
here.
but there's definitely a learning curve.
But Dr. Malhotra introduces this thing called the AWS well-architected framework,
Yeah,
which sounds like kind of like the ultimate blueprint for cloud success.
right. It's like a set of best practices and guidelines for building secure, efficient, and reliable cloud infrastructure.
Okay, so it's not just about throwing things in the cloud and hoping for the best.
Right,
There's a method to the madness.
It's a framework
Yeah.
that can help you make sure that you're doing things right.
Okay, now speaking of madness, let's talk about security.
Yeah,
Because that's a big concern for anyone moving to the cloud.
absolutely.
Is my data safe?
Right.
Is it going to be, accessible to hackers?
And Dr. Malhotra talks a lot about this zero trust security model,
Yes. Zero trust.
which is really important
Yeah.
because it flips the traditional security model on its head.
So what does that mean? What is zero trust?
Well, traditionally, security was all about building a wall
Yeah.
around your network and keeping the bad guys out. But with zero trust, you assume that. No user or device can be trusted by default, even those within your own organization.
Okay.
So it's about verifying every single access request.
So even if I'm like an employee of the company,
Right.
I still have to like prove who I am
Exactly.
every time I want to access something.
Yeah. It's about eliminating implicit trust and implementing multiple layers of security.
Okay. So it's kind of like having a security guard at every door,
Right.
constantly checking IDs.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that analogy.
And making sure everyone belongs there.
Yeah, that makes me feel a lot better about cloud security. But, moving to the cloud isn't just about replicating what you're already doing on your own servers.
Right.
Dr. Malhotra talks about going beyond that, embracing a cloud-native approach.
Right.
What exactly does that mean?
He's talking about really leveraging the unique capabilities that the cloud offers. Things like serverless computing and containers.
Okay.
These are things that you just can't do with traditional infrastructure.
So give me an example. Like, what is serverless computing?
So imagine you're building an app that needs to handle huge spikes in traffic, like during a flash sale. With serverless computing, you don't have to worry about provisioning enough servers in advance.
No.
The cloud handles all of that automatically, scaling your resources up and down as needed.
So it's like having a car that magically transforms into a bus when you need to transport a lot of people.
Exactly.
That's pretty cool. What are containers? What are those?
So containers are a lightweight and portable way to package and deploy your applications. Think of it like putting your app in a self-contained box with everything it needs to run.
Okay.
And then you can easily move that box between different environments.
So it makes your app super flexible
Right.
and scalable.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this cloud-native approach can really unlock a lot of potential.
Hmm.
Now, Dr. Malhotra also throws out a few acronyms. That might sound a bit intimidating
Yeah.
to folks who are new to the cloud world. ISE, DevSecOps, MLOs. Can you break those down for us?
Sure, yeah. IAC stands for Infrastructure as Code,
Okay.
which basically means you're defining your infrastructure using code
Okay.
instead of manually configuring servers and clicking through endless menus.
So you can automate the whole process.
Right.
That makes sense. What about DevSecOps?
So DevSecOps is all about integrating security into every stage of the software development process.
So it's not just something you tack on at the end.
Right.
It's built in from the beginning.
Exactly.
Okay. And MLOps. That sounds like it's related to machine learning.
It is. MLOps is basically DevSecOps for machine learning.
Okay.
It's about automating and streamlining the process of building, deploying, and managing machine learning models.
Okay, so we've got IAC automating our infrastructure, DevSecOps integrating security, and MLOps streamlining machine learning. Sounds like the cloud is all about automation and collaboration,
Absolutely.
making things faster, more efficient, and less error-prone.
Yeah, it's about working smarter, not harder.
I like that. Now, I know that migrating to the cloud can feel daunting,
Right.
but Dr. Malhotra offers some reassurance with this thing called the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, or CF.
Right.
It sounds like a roadmap for businesses navigating their cloud journey.
It is, yeah. It's a framework that helps organizations plan and execute their cloud adoption strategy.
Okay, so it's not just about the technology.
Right.
It's about the people
Right.
and the processes
The whole journey.
and the business goals.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to unpack those 6 perspectives in more detail when we come back after the break. But first, let's take a step into the future. Dr. Malhotra takes us on a journey
Yeah.
to a post-AI, crypto, and quantum world. And this is where he drops this mind-bending concept of quantum uncertainty.
Yeah, this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm already feeling a little uncertain about all this uncertainty.
Well, quantum uncertainty is basically the idea that at the subatomic level, things are inherently unpredictable.
Okay.
And Dr. Malhotra suggests that this will have a profound impact on cloud computing.
So how does that work?
Well, for one thing, it means that our current methods of security and encryption might not be enough
Okay.
because quantum computers will be able to break them.
So we need to start thinking about new ways to protect our data.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a little scary,
It is.
but also exciting.
It is, yeah. It's a whole new frontier,
Yeah.
and it's going to change everything.
Okay, so we've got a lot to think about here. But Dr. Malhotra doesn't leave us hanging in this uncertain future. He offers some hope, right?
He does. He believes that by embracing the principles of agility, resilience, and zero trust, businesses can build cloud infrastructures that are not only secure and efficient, but also adaptable and future-proof.
Okay, so it's about being prepared for anything, being able to change course quickly,
Yeah.
and never taking security for granted.
Exactly.
Sounds like solid advice for navigating any uncertain landscape, whether it's quantum or just plain old regular uncertainty.
Absolutely.
This is all really fascinating stuff. We're going to take a quick pause here. But when we come back, we'll dive deeper into the specifics of the well-architected framework and how it can help you build a secure and efficient cloud foundation. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. So we've been talking about this AWS well-architected framework. It's kind of like the ultimate guidebook for building a solid cloud foundation, right?
Yeah, it's a really valuable framework.
Okay, so let's crack it open and explore those 5 pillars that Dr. Malhotra highlighted in his presentation. Starting with operational excellence. What does that even mean in the cloud world?
So operational excellence, it's all about continuous improvement.
Okay.
It's about making sure that your systems are running smoothly
Mm.
and efficiently, and that you're constantly learning
Mm-hmm.
and improving your processes.
So it's not a set it and forget it kind of deal.
Right, exactly. You need to be proactive
Yeah.
about monitoring your systems, identifying potential issues, and making changes to improve things.
Okay, so how do you actually do that?
Well, Dr. Malhotra talks about this idea of performing operations as code,
Okay.
which basically means automating as much as possible.
Okay, so less manual work.
Right. More automation, which means fewer errors
All right.
and more consistency.
Makes sense. Now, he also mentioned this idea of building systems to embrace failure, which sounds a little counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Should we be trying to prevent failures?
Of course. But in a complex system like the cloud, failures are inevitable.
Okay.
So the key is to design your systems in a way that they can handle those failures gracefully.
Okay, so it's not about, like, if something breaks, the whole thing crashes.
Right. It's about making sure that the system can keep running, even if a part of it fails.
Okay, and how do you actually do that?
Well, one way is through something called chaos engineering.
Chaos engineering.
Yeah. That sounds a little scary.
It is a little bit.
Yeah.
But it's basically about deliberately injecting failures
Yeah.
into your system
Mm-hmm.
to see how it responds
Okay, so you're basically breaking things on purpose
in a controlled way.
to see if they break.
Right, to see how they break and to make sure that the system can recover.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. All right, let's move on to the next pillar, security. This one feels particularly important in the cloud world.
Absolutely. Security is paramount in the cloud because your data and applications are accessible from anywhere in the world. So
Yeah.
you need to make sure that they're protected from unauthorized access. And Dr. Malhotra is a big proponent of this zero trust model, right?
Right. Zero trust is all about assuming that no user or device can be trusted by default,
Okay.
even those within your own organization.
So even if you're like an employee of the company working from your own laptop, you still have to prove who you are.
Exactly. Every time you access the system.
Okay, so it's really about eliminating any kind of implicit trust
Right.
and verifying everything.
Exactly.
Now, what about network segmentation? He talked about that too.
Yeah, network segmentation is important because it helps to limit the damage that an attacker can cause
Okay,
if they do manage to gain access to your system.
so it's kind of like dividing your house into separate rooms with locked doors.
Right.
So someone breaks into one room, they can't easily get to the rest of the house.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. And automation plays a big role in security as well, right?
Absolutely. You can automate things like vulnerability scanning, threat detection, and incident response, which helps you to identify and respond to threats more quickly and efficiently.
All right, so we've got operational excellence and security covered. Let's move on to reliability. I imagine that's pretty important when you're relying on the cloud to run your business.
Yeah, reliability is all about making sure that your systems are up and running when you need them.
Okay.
And Dr. Malhotra talks about using multiple availability zones.
Availability zones.
Yeah, those are basically separate data centers
Wait.
in different geographical locations.
Okay.
So if one availability zone goes down, your applications can still run from another zone.
So it's like having a backup system, but for your entire infrastructure.
Right.
That's pretty impressive. Now, what about performance? How do you ensure that your cloud applications are running quickly and efficiently?
So performance efficiency is all about making sure that your applications are responsive and scalable,
Okay.
and that they're using resources effectively.
Okay. And how do you do that?
Well, Dr. Malhotra recommends using purpose-built data services like NoSQL databases, in-memory caches, and
Yeah.
data warehouses.
Okay. And what are those?
Those are basically different types of databases that are designed for specific types of workloads.
Okay.
So, for example, if you're processing a lot of data, you might use a data warehouse.
Right.
Or if you need real-time insights, you might use an in-memory cache.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Right.
Okay. And then finally, we have cost optimization. I imagine this is top of mind for a lot of businesses considering the cloud.
Absolutely. Cost optimization is all about making sure that you're getting the most value out of your cloud spending.
Okay.
And Dr. Malhotra recommends a consumption-based model.
Consumption-based.
Yeah, that means you only pay for what you use.
Okay, so like if I'm not using a server, I'm not paying for it.
Correct. Okay, I like that. And cloud providers offer a variety of tools to help you track your costs and identify areas for optimization.
Okay, so it's not just about, like, throwing money at the cloud
Right.
and hoping for the best.
It's about being strategic.
I bet you're spending.
Exactly.
Okay. So these 5 pillars of the well-architected framework, they provide a really comprehensive framework for building a successful cloud infrastructure. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution,
Right.
but it's a really good starting point.
It's a set of guidelines that can help you make sure that you're building things the right way.
Okay, now, from your experience, what's the biggest mistake that you see businesses making when it comes to cloud architecture?
I'd say the most common mistake is treating the cloud as just a cheaper alternative to their existing on-premises infrastructure.
Sure.
They just lift and shift their applications without really thinking about how to take advantage of the cloud's unique capabilities.
So it's like buying a Ferrari and only driving it in first gear.
Exactly.
You're not getting the full benefit.
You're missing out on the full potential.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not just about moving to the cloud. It's about embracing a cloud-native mindset,
Right.
really understanding the possibilities.
And designing your applications accordingly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, great advice. For our listeners, I highly recommend checking out the Well-Architected Framework documentation and the AWS Well-Architected tool. Those are fantastic resources for anyone looking to build a solid cloud foundation.
Yeah, they're great resources.
Okay, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the AWS Cloud Adoption Framework, or CAF, which Dr. Malhotra presents as a roadmap for organizations embarking on their cloud journey.
Yeah, the CAF is a really valuable framework because it recognizes that cloud adoption isn't just about technology.
Okay.
It's a holistic process.
Okay.
It involves people, processes, and business goals.
Right. It's not just about implementing new technology. It's about transforming your entire organization.
Exactly.
And Dr. Malhotra breaks this down into 6 key perspectives.
Right.
So let's dive into those now. So we've got these 6 perspectives of the cloud adoption framework. Where do we even begin?
Well, I think the business perspective is a good place to start.
Okay, so that's clever. Like making sure you have a clear business reason for moving to the cloud.
Exactly. It's not just about jumping on the latest tech trend. You need to understand how cloud adoption aligns with your overall business objectives.
Okay. So what are some examples of those objectives?
Well, it could be anything, really, like increasing agility, reducing costs, improving your customer experience, or driving innovation.
Okay, so it's about figuring out what you want to achieve and then seeing if the cloud can help you get there.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, what about the people perspective?
So the people perspective is all about making sure that your team is ready for the cloud.
Okay.
It's about providing training and development opportunities to help them develop the skills they need to be successful.
So it's not just about, like, giving people new tools.
Right.
It's about teaching them how to use those tools effectively.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, what about governance?
Governance is all about establishing clear policies and procedures for managing your cloud environment. It's about things like cost management, security, compliance, and risk management.
So it's about, like, setting the rules of the road.
To make sure that everything is running smoothly and securely.
Okay, makes sense. Now let's move on to the platform perspective, this sounds like, where things get a little more technical.
It does. The platform perspective is all about the technical details of your cloud infrastructure.
Okay.
It's about choosing the right cloud provider, the right services, and the right architecture for your applications.
Okay, so this is where we decide, like, which cloud provider to use, what kind of servers we need, and how our applications are going to be structured.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, of course, we can't forget about security.
Absolutely. Security is essential in any cloud environment.
Okay.
And the security perspective is all about making sure that your data and applications are protected.
Okay. And how do you do that?
Well, it's about implementing a multi-layered security approach. That includes things like zero trust, encryption, identity and access management, and continuous monitoring.
Okay, so it's about being proactive and constantly looking for ways to improve your security posture.
Exactly.
Okay. And finally, we have the operations perspective.
Right. The operations perspective is all about keeping your cloud environment running smoothly.
Okay.
Once it's up and running.
Okay.
It's about things like monitoring, logging, incident response, and disaster recovery.
So it's about making sure that everything is running as it should be.
Exactly.
And that you're prepared for any unexpected events.
Right.
Okay. This is all really helpful stuff, but it's a lot to take in. Any advice for our listeners on how to get started?
Yeah, I would say don't try to do everything at once.
Okay.
Start small,
Okay.
focus on one or two key areas,
Okay.
and then gradually expand your cloud footprint.
Okay, that's great advice. And, Dr. Malhotra also talks about the importance of hands-on experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Don't just read about the cloud.
Right.
Get out there and try things.
Experiment. Get your hands dirty.
Yeah. Yeah, and those AWS workshops
Yeah.
that he mentioned seem like a great way to do that.
They are, yeah. They're a great way to get some practical experience.
Okay, awesome. Well, I think that's about all the time we have for today, but this has been a really fascinating conversation.
Yeah, it
I've learned a lot,
Me too.
and I hope our listeners have too. So to recap, we've talked about the key concepts of cloud computing, the AWS well-architected framework, the cloud adoption framework, and the future of cloud computing. In a post-AI, crypto, and quantum world, it's a lot to think about. But it's clear that the cloud is going to continue to transform the way we live and work. So, to our listeners, I encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep. Thanks for joining us.